Hey everyone, Scott here, better known as Narebo, and welcome back to another airline livery illustration. Today I'm going to illustrate the Etihad Boeing 787-9 in the new livery. I guess it's not new anymore, it came out in 2014, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I am already in Adobe Illustrator. I found a reference photo of a perfectly side-on 787-9 in the Etihad livery. And now I'm just tracing over all of the elements in the vertical stabilizer here. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I don't always trace photos or I don't always trace objects because I like to fit the livery to my template exactly. And by the way, I'm using my own personal Boeing 787-9 template that I created. You can get it over at my website, narebo.com. There's a link in the description below. But anyway, I like to create as much as I can from scratch without having to trace anything. But in the case of this Etihad livery, it's so complex and there are so many parts and pieces to it. The easiest thing was just to trace it. And there are lots of really good side view profile photos of these airplanes out on the internet. I believe I got this one from airliners.net. That's always my first go-to place. And yeah, so tracing it was the best option. So what I did is I turned snap on in Adobe Illustrator, meaning that all my points will snap together. And since it's such a geometric design with lots of hard edges and intersecting points, it's really easy to do in Illustrator if you turn the snapping feature on, and then as you draw, everything will snap together and you're not going to have any gaps. So that's kind of nice. So I started out by doing the line drawings of just tracing those shapes or those fractals. And now I'm just going back in and I'm replacing the outline with a solid fill color. And you know what? In terms of colors, the best that I could do is, you see that reference photo above, again, which I got from airliners.net. That photo is overly saturated, I think, and it's very low light, whether it's sunrise or sunset. So it's slightly exaggerated, but I'm using those colors because I like the way that it looks. It's very vibrant, and it'll make for a punchy illustration. So I'm using those colors as reference. So here you can see me. I had to go in and manually create some shapes and modify some things simply to fit my template a little bit. My template is a little bit different than photos or perfectly side-on photos because there's absolutely no perspective. So I had to go back in and make a few things from scratch. So that's what I'm doing. It's that top section there that you can't really see because it's hidden by the wing a little bit, but even if I get it off just a little bit, it's not that big of a deal. You know, it's not perfect. Never has to be perfect. You know, that's my motto, which I say in every single video. If you spend all of your energy trying to be perfect and getting it exactly right, you're just going to drive yourself mad. So don't even try. And no one's ever going to know the difference anyway, so it's all good. So, yeah, as you can see, I've got my vector shapes created here in Adobe Illustrator. And now I'm just scaling it up a little bit and modifying it to fit my template. Again, you can get this template over on my website, narebo.com, link in the description below. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. As you see, I have to kind of scale things a little bit of stretching horizontally and vertically. And I got it looking fairly decent. And now I'm in Adobe Photoshop, and what I did is I just copied and pasted those vector shapes as one group from Adobe Illustrator over to Photoshop. I imported those as a vector object or a vector smart object, so I can keep maximum flexibility, at least when it comes to scaling and doing, you know, just general modifications like that. So now it's just a matter of duplicating that vector smart object, keeping that original as a copy is kind of like a source file. And then I make a copy of it. Then I create a flattened, rasterized version of it where I can just trim away all the excess. I don't know. I like to have many different layers or many different versions of the same graphic within a Photoshop file. So if I ever have to go back and make some changes, I can do that. And, you know, like I said, everyone's different. That's the way I work. And yeah, I'm sticking to it. Let's see, what am I working on here? Oh, I was working on the windows, knocking out the windows and the blanks to match the photo. And I realized this Etihad logo that I had, I downloaded it from Wikipedia. They said it was going to be, or it said it was a SVG file, which is vector, which I thought was really nice. You know, if I find a vector file, I don't have to recreate it myself. But I downloaded the SVG, and it turns out it's just a PNG file with an SVG extension. So long story short, I had to go back into Adobe Illustrator and recreate this Etihad logo myself, which is no big deal. It's a fairly simple logo, or these titles are very simple, so it's not that big of a deal. And besides, having a vector version of it, something that I can scale to unlimited size or proportions, is what I need anyway, or it's what I prefer. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just tracing that PNG file in Adobe Illustrator, and then I can get my solid shapes that I can paste back over into Photoshop. This script here is a little bit tricky, or it was a little bit tricky, but it wasn't all that bad. I've definitely had to trace more complex logos and titles in the past, so you know, once you get to know Adobe Illustrator or any other vector editing program or vector creation program that you use, this kind of stuff becomes really simple. I mean, it may look daunting and confusing and difficult if you're not familiar with it, but it's not that bad. And if you do it long enough, you're going to get familiar with it, and it's going to go really fast. The process of tracing this logo and getting vector objects from it took maybe 10 minutes. Just both for that Etihad script on the top and then the Etihad titles. It's 10 minutes, not a lot of work. It's worth it to get those vector objects that you can modify and scale, especially on my templates, which are very high resolution. These are about 5,000 pixels wide, so you really need large graphics or large elements, graphics, yeah, to work with my templates, or at least my source files, or my PSDs, which you can get for 50% off, by the way. Another little sales pitch here, but link in the description below. Sign up for the Norebo Discount Club, and you can get 50% off all my templates. It's your entire first order, 50% off, no matter how much you order. It's a good deal. Highly recommend it. And yeah, end of the sales pitch. So now I'm just adding all the little details here. As you saw, I just created the UAE flag. That's hard to say. United Arab Emirates flag. Did that in Adobe Illustrator. Really easy. And now it's the From Abu Dhabi to the World titles, which I discovered is almost DIN. It's not quite DIN. The font, you can get that pretty much anywhere. And it's a very common font. It may not be DIN exactly, but that's what I found that was fairly close. And as I said in other videos, DIN is a very common font when it comes to airline liveries, especially for things like registration numbers and stuff like that. So, and yeah, now the UAE coat of arms graphic. This is something that I found on Wikipedia. This is a vector graphic. It's a beautiful illustration. Whoever did it did a really good job on it. And yeah, I could have created that myself, but it would have taken at least an hour, maybe two, for me to do that, and it just wasn't worth it for this illustration. So sometimes you just have to take the shortcut and cheat a little bit. But if I was going to use this illustration for commercial purposes, it would be very illegal for me to use that graphic from Wikipedia, so I'd have to create it myself. And as I said earlier, the more you work with vector files and the more you create vector graphics, that kind of stuff goes relatively quickly, and it's not as painful as it may sound. So now we get to the good stuff. All along, up until this point, this illustration has been very flat. It's very, I just had the basic colors in there, but now I'm going to go in and add some of that metallic texture and some of the color. And a little secret here. When it comes to metallic textures, someone just asked me this, and I didn't really have a good answer for it, but now that I did this illustration, I could explain a little bit better. The best way to recreate a metallic look in Photoshop is just to add some sheen. So for example, if you had a flat color like that gold that I had on the fuselage, by just taking a paintbrush, a thick paintbrush with white, and going right down the middle of the fuselage, it adds some sort of it looks like a sheen to it, and that's what metallic paint does. It's not like this illustration, if you zoom really in close on it, you're not going to see all those metallic flakes. It's pretty much impossible to do in Photoshop. I mean, I guess you could do it, but no one's going to see it anyway. But just creating that sheen, or that very dull highlight that goes down the center of the fuselage, that creates a metallic look. And then when you double that or add the hard gloss that goes through the middle of the aircraft, through the windows, and all the way through the end, you get that double whammy of the sheen and also the hard gloss of the paint, and it looks great. So yeah, that is my Etihad Boeing 787-9 illustration. I may have said 8 earlier. I don't remember, but yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below. As I always say, I am fairly responsive. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to share the knowledge. And I hope this was entertaining and helpful for you. So that's it from me, and I'll catch you in the next one.